Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Tipiso, and I will be your moderator for today's webinar. If you could kindly just give me a thumbs up in the chat section if you're able to see me, as well as hear me clearly, so that we can start with the proceedings of the day. Thank you so much, John. Much appreciated. Moving right along, kindly note the slide that is up on your screen. It is the notification and sound slide. This is where you're able to minimize any notifications that might come through whilst you are attending today's webinar. Please note you can turn them on and off as you please. And there's also a Q&A function that is readily available should you have any questions relating to today's topic. If it's something that I will be able to answer and it's related to EIT, the courses that we offer, as well as getting in contact with our course advisor team or any other members of the team, I will do so and answer the questions in the chat box. However, if it's related specifically to today's topic, I will allow Natalie to answer your questions at the end of the webinar, where we will have a post Q&A session. Okay, now for some common questions, please note you will receive a recording as well as a PDF copy of the slides for today's webinar. These will be sent to you by EIT's marketing team. You will also have the opportunity to request for your certificates of attendance. I will be providing you guys with the QR code as well as link that you will use to request for your certificate. Disclaimer, please. Put your names as you'd like them to appear on the certificate. So if my name is Tepiso Morabe, I will write Tepiso Morabe. Please no nicknames, because that's how the certificate will appear and we will not be able to change it on your behalf. Okay, now if it's your first time here, let me tell you a little bit more about the Engineering Institute of Technology. We are engineering specialists, one of the few organizations in the world that solely focus on engineering education. We offer industry-oriented programs that are facilitated by industry experienced lecturers. These people have studied for a long time and are now imparting the knowledge and skills that they have gained in their studies as well as their work experience, and they now are giving it to our students. We also offer world-class Australian accredited education programs, meaning that the Australian government recognizes and accredits our courses, and in some instances, we have international recognition and accreditation for a select number of our courses, that being advanced diplomas, bachelor's degrees, as well as the Masters of Engineering. And they are all, not all of them, my apologies, a select few, are accredited under the Dublin, Sydney, as well as the Washington Accord. Now, these are some of the reasons why students choose to study at EIT. As I've mentioned, because you'll receive our slides as well as the recording, you'll be able to go through this information when you receive it, when it's sent via email. And then these are some of the awards that we won in the year 2024. As you can see, we're doing really, really well in providing students with the knowledge and skills that they need to become better engineering professionals. Now, to the business of the day, welcome to today's topic. It is EIT Smart Study Guide, using AI to learn more and stress less. And your presenter for today is Natalie Dang. She is EIT's Digital Learning Manager. So for all things digital learning, she is the person that you can refer to. Natalie, I believe this is where I end and you begin. If you could kindly take control of the slides and start the presentation. If you have any questions, ladies and gentlemen, please leave them in the chat box or the comment section. I will be happy to answer. Thank you so, so much. And I hope you enjoyed this webinar. Natalie, over to you.
Thanks so much, Chappie. Okay, welcome everyone. We've got quite a few people in attendance today, so it's lovely to see you all. That's great. I hope that you guys all find this session beneficial. If you want to put any questions into the chat, I'll try and get to them as we go, but we also have that Q&A at the end, and if you think of anything afterwards, you're also welcome to contact us with those questions. I know sometimes you need to sit with things for a little while you think about them, and some of the questions won't really be in the scope of this presentation today. So essentially, put anything that comes into your mind into the chat, and we'll address it as we go, as much as we can. Great. So my name's Natalie. I am the Digital Learning Manager at EIT. I've been here for almost 10 years now, so I've seen quite a few changes in the business and in technology along the way. I've worked in VET as an LSO and managed the higher education team, and now I'm more on the academic side of things. So I've seen students really up close, definitely have lots of experience in discussions with students and the kind of issues that you guys deal with, but also in the back end. So what goes on academically and with academic integrity and content and a little bit with industry as well. So I hope that I can bring a kind of broad perspective to this discussion. And we've also got a bunch of great people at EIT that are constantly having discussions around this area, and that really helps as well. My background is linguistics. I've done some training and assessment, VET courses, and also some postgrad as well in learning design. Not super relevant. Let's move on. Okay, so this is our agenda for today. We have an intro to AI, what it is, what it does, what kind of tools there are, and then we'll get stuck into how it can actually benefit you as students. I would imagine that there's a really wide range of expertise in our attendees today. Some of you may have not used it at all or very little, and some of you are probably out there vibe coding and really much better at it than I am. I'm not a programmer or developer, so the technical side I'm not au fait on, but I'll try and present a range of levels in this chat today so that we can kind of cover off most of you. But again, feel free to have discussions in the chat. I encourage it, absolutely. So we're going to talk about some types of prompts you can use to help you study how AI can benefit you when you're planning and what you shouldn't be doing with AI. I don't want to give you a lecture. I think everyone knows what they shouldn't be doing, but I will touch on the kind of things that you just need to be mindful of when you're using AI. I think we can all agree at this point that it's not going anywhere. And so my goal here is to get you guys a little more digitally savvy around it. Make sure that you're getting equipped with the knowledge that you need, at least on a fundamental level. What you find interesting, you can go off and explore a little bit further. So we're going to cover how to organize your study life, how to take concepts that are difficult and help use AI to help you understand them better, how to build flashcards and notes and summaries. AI can be really good at that kind of tailored learning that you need. We're actually working on some tools in our made by EIT to really help focus it on engineering studies. So stay tuned next year for some of those. So that will be like an AI chatbot or, even things in our remote labs that we're having a play with. So some exciting stuff happening there. How to use AI to quiz yourself and to test your knowledge. And then, like I said, touching on some of those ethics as well. Can't have an AI discussion without at least mentioning it, right? So bit of an intro before we go any further. It's important that you have you approach AI with the right mindset, or Gen AI, I should say. AI is a very broad term. It shouldn't be used to replace your brain and your knowledge. I think we're starting to see that that's quite problematic. It's here to help you, I guess, level up. So the students who get the most out of Gen AI aren't the ones who are copy pasting. They're the ones who are using it to question, interrogate, to improve themselves and improve their knowledge to plan better, be more efficient with some of those like really repetitive tasks. And it needs your direction, right? The way to get the most out of AI is to give it really good prompting and really good guides, and to get lots and lots of practice on it. One of the best things I can suggest. So it should be like a tutor or a partner, but it should not be doing the work for you. And your outputs are only going to be as good as your prompting. It's certainly better. It's natural language, right? So it's designed to be spoken to like a person, which is why it's so appealing and so easy to use for everyone. But there are definitely inputs that you can give that are going to give you better outputs, like anything, right? So I just want to read you this little quote. This is from a paper, I think it's Cambridge. So it's, legit. It's not just somebody's opinion. It's sort of a neurology-based one. So they used EEG from memory, but you can go have a look at the paper there. It's also in the references. So when we send these slides out, if you're interested in that kind of thing, have a read. So humans using their brains to tackle a subject can benefit from using AI after they have already fully explored experiences, knowledge, and feelings without using technology. But those using AI from the outset show reduced brain activity over time and were less able to perform cognitive tasks when they were asked to go ChatGPT free. So what does that mean? Essentially, if you don't have the foundational knowledge, if you don't let yourself practice and build those neural pathways in your brain and actually learn the knowledge that you're here to, studying to try and get, it's kind of a use it or lose it situation. You are not going to perform as well in your exams. You're not going to perform as well in the workforce when you're on the spot and you have to think of a solution. Of course, AI is going to get used in workplaces too, but our job as educators is to make sure that you guys are knowledgeable, that you are graduating, having learned how to be engineers, right? Or how to upskill or cross skill or whatever it is you're doing with us. There is real research to show that over reliance on AI is problematic. So, word of warning. And I think we'll see the implications of this over the next few years, but hopefully not any of you guys. So what is generative AI? It creates new content, right? Novel content, text, images, code based on what you asked, learns patterns from those huge data sets that it's ingested from scraping the internet and various other places, and predicts what should come out next. So some people talk about it as like glorified spell check, sort of auto prompter, autocomplete. That's what I want. But it's obviously a lot more complex than that. Decision trees and all the sorts of things that go on in the back end. It is black box technology, so you don't exactly see how a model came to its response. It's really difficult to determine, although there's definitely some insights there that are happening every month. There's some new revelation in AI, so it's tricky to keep up with it all. Tools like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, Copilot, DeepSeek, and Grok are some of the biggest ones. If you know any others, feel free not to gatekeep and share them in the chat with your peers. If you think there's something useful as we go through things today, chuck it in there. It can always be beneficial to your peers. It's quite creative as creativity, right? There's the whole ethical debate about whether it's creating anything or if it's just using other people's content. But if you give it direction, it's good at helping you build that sort of foundational draft. And then we don't want humans to be taken out of the equation, right? We need you guys to really critique it and improve things and tailor things and all the stuff that you do normally, right? So into the actual uses. Is there any questions or comments so far?
Nothing from the chat box, Matt, but I'll keep an eye out.
Great, thank you. Okay, into the actual uses of AI. So let AI help you plan smarter so that you spend more of your very valuable time on the bits that matter. And you can use it to do things like building weekly study plans really quickly to help balance your classes, your projects, your work, your family, your downtime, your sports commitments, right? Most of our students don't have the luxury of just studying, although that would be wonderful. I'm sure we'd all agree. Everyone has lives that they have to get on with, and AI can definitely help structure those priorities and come up with a plan. Some of you can do this already without AI, right? But that's not why we're here talking about this. ChatGPT and Copilot can be used to set priorities and reminders. Setting reminders is a little bit agentic AI realm. So we won't go into that today because it's quite complex, but plenty of YouTube on it if you want to have a look. Well worth a bit of research. So you can do it, do things like tell a model what subjects you're studying and how much time you have in your next due dates and get it to tailor a plan for you. Definitely really useful for helping you personalize your learning and taking off some of that mental load so you're not spending 2 hours sitting there making a plan for the next semester. You can just get AI to do it in like 15 minutes, right? So here's a prompt example. So I'm studying thermodynamics, control systems, and math. I've got 12 hours this week. Help me make a realistic schedule with daily goals and rest breaks. You can put in as much context as you want here. AI models are really good at taking lots of context now and then giving you fairly good outputs. It couldn't do that a few years ago, so definitely an improvement. So what happens when you put that prompt in is it will give you a full plan. So it'll say Monday you do this, Tuesday you do this, here's what you schedule in some break time, very important that you have some balance in there. So you can tweak it, add it to your calendars, put in schedules on your phone, whatever works for you. And then you can feed it back in or go back to that thread or that chat and say, okay, I've actually only got 6 hours this week, or you know what, a project's finished, I've got 15 hours, and it will tweak it for you. AI is not going to judge you for anything. It has no wants or needs or anything. It's not alive, so you can be quite candid with it about what your needs are as far as study goes. you get to make all the decisions, of course, and AI just helps you keep that structure. Okay, so how can you use it to break down complex topics? You can use it to simplify. There's definitely a lot of challenging topics in engineering, as I'm sure you're all aware. So it's fairly good, and be very careful with this because sometimes you will need to check them to make sure it's like an accurate representation and it hasn't oversimplified it to the point of being incorrect, right? It can still do that. It can still hallucinate, especially with things like standards. Be very careful. So you can prompt it to say, explain like you're 10, or like it's to a 10-year-old, or like you're a professional engineer, or to a room full of non-engineers, and see what it spits out from that. Get examples, analogies, diagrams. It's very hit and miss with. Even the new like Nano Banana 2 is better, but we've not had great success with generating engineering diagrams from it. If you see anything, by all means, give it a go, but very cautious with it. It's really good for like your tougher lectures, revision summaries, pre-exam refreshers, or if you just have a topic that you're super interested in and you just want to get like a sampler, sort of a taste of it without having to go and read multiple textbooks about it, right? So here's an example of how to prompt to clarify a tricky concept. So say I'm confused about how PID controllers work in automation, explain it like I'm a beginner, then give me a short technical summary I could use in my notes, and then add a simple real world analogy too. That could be really good for exam revision, or it could just be good if you're trying to understand a concept in an assignment or an essay, or before you go into the remote labs and do a practical assessment. The goal you're trying to get out here is to scaffold your learning. So for anyone who knows educational psychology or pedagogy, you want to start with your fundamental concepts and build on them, right? It's why having the knowledge, that fundamental core knowledge, is so critical, and that you can actually then grow from that. It's very hard without that foundation. And that's what you want to do with your prompting. You don't just want it to say, okay, explain this like master's level concept at master's level if you have no understanding of it, right? Hopefully you do because you've used it in your workplace or in your previous studies, but give it a bit of guidance so that you're getting good outputs. And then you can get it to teach you at different levels. There's a little example there of how that will look in Copilot if you chuck it in there. I think any of our students with EIT student email, so higher education and vet students, that's all of you guys, you will have access to Copilot. But of course, you can use other things as well. We're just going to recommend Copilot because at least we know that it's a bit more secure. Okay, onto flashcards, summaries, and revision tools. So you can turn your notes, your lecture or tutorial or webinar notes into flashcards or summaries really quickly. Get it to highlight key terms or formulas or steps from, handwritten notes. You can even take photos of your notes and get them to convert them to text. I definitely remember in my earlier days of studying, because I'm old enough to have done fully handwritten notes, and then having to type them all out on the computer afterwards, just so I had a record as I went through my degree. You can do that pretty quickly by taking a photo now, feeding it to AI, and then reading through to make sure it's all correct. That alone is going to help you cement that knowledge. So it is a lot quicker than just copying them all out manually. You can also use Gen AI models to quiz you on your own content. Again, this is something we're sort of looking at EIT, at developing our own bot that you'll be able to sort of use in Moodle, but not till next year. Then you can put it into something like Quizlet or Canva so that you've got a copy of those that you can, use it on the phone when you're on your way to work or on your lunch break or whatever, and just make it easy for yourself to have that revision in the moments where you've actually got the time. And yeah, we will be sending these slides out after, so you can have a copy of these as well. You could also ask it to create a Word document if you prefer to work from that. There's a prompt example. So here are my notes on heat transfer. Create 10 flashcards with key terms on one side and short, clear definitions on the other. See how it goes with that, right? You might need to like tighten that prompt up a little bit and then give me a 5-question quiz to test my understanding. And then your outputs might look something like that. So even if it just gives you the text and then you can just copy and paste those over to slides, yeah, whatever works for you. So practicing more how to make flashcards, Ambrose. So that's where we have, there are tools like Quizlet and Canva, But you could honestly just Google or put into the App Store flashcards. And there are so many free apps and tools that will just let you input, your questions and your answers. There's probably a lot of pre-made ones as well, but at least this way you can customize it for what you're learning. Okay, quizzing yourself is a very useful tool. It's going to help you take that knowledge that you've got from your short-term memory into your long-term memory, which is useful for, especially things like exams, but also for your longer-term studies, right? Because what you study in January, what's the likelihood you're going to remember it in November unless you are repeating it over and over or using it at work? You cover so much content in all of your units and modules. It's very easy to forget things. So practice is going to help cement that knowledge and is definitely worth doing on any sort of key topics, things that you know are going to be relevant for your career or your work especially. You can ask it to simulate exam questions, so multiple choice, short answer, coding tasks, scenarios, whatever you like, and then get instant feedback and explanations. So definitely test yourself with AI. It's really good for that. So your prompts will look something like this. So it'll say, you could put in, test me on the following topics. And this is taken straight from one of our units. So thermal properties of materials, fundamentals of thermodynamics, heat capacity, and thermal expansion. Create 5 MCQs and 2 short answer ones. And after I answer, explain each correct answer in plain English and keep it short. The reason that I'd suggest putting in these sort of caveats is that AI can be a little bit sycophantic still. Not as bad as the last as GPT 4.0 was, but it can still be a bit like not harsh enough, right? You want it to be critical. You want it to not roast you, but at least push you a little bit. And you want it to do, you want it to ask you questions without giving you the answer. So if any of you that know about the Socratic questioning process, it's where you can ask it to do Socratic questioning, right? It will ask you questions while not giving you the answer and get you to dive a bit deeper into that knowledge. And that thought process is what's really going to help you learn and avoid that sort of issue that that Cambridge paper was talking about. So here's an example of the kind of outputs that you're going to get. And the reason that it works is that you're trying to answer it first. If you just say, give me questions and tell me the answers, what is the point? Like you could just Google that, you could just look at the slides, right? There's no point. What you want AI to do is to help you test yourself. Okay, for those of you that are in industry, and we know a lot of our students are, how you use it in your workplaces is going to be dependent on your workplace policies. But in terms of your career, this is sort of how I'd probably recommend that it might be useful. So if you use it to simulate real world scenarios, then it will give you the chance to practice things in a safe environment. So I know they do this in medicine, right? If you're a doctor, then you run through scenarios, like worst case critical scenarios, and then how you react and all the decisions that are made, and then they reflect on those. You can do this with engineering just as easily. Some of you might already do this kind of thing in your workplaces, right? So you can ask it to look at a project that you did. You can give it the outcomes or the decisions that were made, keeping in mind confidentiality, change names, change situations, whatever. And then ask it to, reflect on what you did, what you could have done better, how it aligned to a policy, all that kind of thing, to role play. So if you're doing interviewing, there's definitely AI tools out there that can help you improve your interviewing skills, review your resumes, things like that. Do not get it to generate all of a resume. It's sort of easy to tell when things are written by AI, but it's not, like no one can tell 100% of the time, right? But we're all starting to sort of be able to make a bit of a judgment call when something has been fully AI written, even if we can't tell exactly what it is. So it's sort of below that level of our awareness, but we know it doesn't look like something a human wrote, right? Giving step-by-step guidance or explanations, diving into a particular decision process, all that kind of helps with just improving yourself as in your industry and in your job role. So problem solving, right? They're the skills that you want to develop. They're the ones that are going to make you more likely to be employable for the rest of your careers, and not future proof, because nothing's future proof, right? But prepare, I guess. I'm just having a look at some of the chat comments. Like why AI gives wrong answers. It's the uncanny valley effect as well. AI still hallucinates. You imagine that all the data it's pulled in, it's not been verified, right? Which is why it's useful for EIT to develop our own chatbot that we know is pulling primarily from sources that are verified, textbooks, published articles, like places that we know are legitimate. At the moment, your ChatGPTs, Copilots, all of them, it's everything, and it can prioritize certain things. I don't know how they've trained their algorithm, but you are occasionally going to get wrong answers. It does. The newer models, 5.0, they have that thinking sort of phase where it will sort of reflect, like look at its own answer before it tells you. I haven't actually seen much about how effective it is, although I have noticed much less hallucination than they used to be. But again, I'm on the uncanny valley effect, aside from images, which are getting incredibly good, but we can still look at an AI, generally generated image, and say, yeah, that's probably AI. It's getting very hard to tell, though. And the same with text, right? You can read it and say, okay, beyond the em dashes and the strange phrasing, it just doesn't look like a human had their hands on this. Okay. Going to touch on the ethics, because like I said, we can't avoid this discussion. It's pretty important. I just want everyone to take away from this that AI should be used as a tool and to learn and not to do your work for you, not to cheat. If you can't confidently explain the outputs of AI and you put that into an assessment, then you haven't learned ultimately. And that's not what we want. I don't think that any university or any education provider can sit there forcing you to handwrite every single piece of work you do. So this is an entire, it's a global issue that is definitely something we're concerned about. So if you want your degrees to be, I guess, worthwhile and hold value in 5 years, in 10 years, or, whatever you're studying with us, then I implore you to use AI in an ethical manner that doesn't detract from your learning. Find ways to use it that will help you, but that are not doing the work for you. And if you can explain it in the end and you understand what you're doing and what you're producing, I think that's what matters. Acknowledge when you've used AI. That's kind of good practice. There's a bit of a discussion about whether you can reference it, because you can't. Can you reference something not created by a human? There's a lot of copyright discussion going on legally. It's going through courts all over the world about attribution and credit and whether AI can be copyrighted at all. Some courts have said yes, some have said no. Sorry, everyone, my voice is a bit scratchy. Never share any confidential or client data or personal data. I shouldn't have to tell you that. In Copilot, we have like an institutional protection on it, so it's not used to train the model. You can go into settings and turn those off in ChatGPT, I think, where it's not used to train the model. Just be very wary that if something is free, then you're probably the product, right? So as we go into 2026 and onwards, I think we're going to see models getting more expensive, that the premium ones are kind of the only ones worth having, and subscription models and all that sort of thing. It's AI is costing a ridiculous amount of money to run the data centers, the electricity, just the infrastructure and everything. So I suspect it's going to get more expensive. And then we have to wonder if they're going to start advertising to pay for that. I think Grok already is, perhaps, or maybe the Facebook Meta, maybe their version is already advertising within there. So just things to be careful of, be critical, and be very careful about what you're sharing. Ask for feedback, not full answers. So ask it to guide your process, to critique you, not to actually replace your learning process, and make sure you develop good judgment in your class and your careers. You're responsible for AI outputs. If a bridge collapses or something blows up or falls off a truck and you've used AI to do your calculations, then in your careers, you guys are pretty high stakes, right? You're going to be likely accountable for it, and you definitely don't want to say, oh, well, I just trusted what AI output. I don't want anyone to be in that situation. I'm going to have a quick look at the chat, see if there's anything in there that's critical. So Pansy asked, can AI be used to maintain machines like winding machines? It also help in troubleshooting these failures, because I'm trying and it seems not to have it all, and understand what I want, and also how we develop from not using AI as a quick tool, or is it okay to use it always to think but then leave the judgment to me? I think that judgment should be by humans, especially in critical areas. If it's processing data for you, and we know that AI is pretty good at that and getting better, populating graphs and tables, it's definitely improving with. I probably couldn't give you advice on a specific case like that, but I'm seeing there's a lot of failed applications of AI. There's a lot of hype because, of course, it's new technology. There's always tons of hype with these things, right? And the actual failure rate of AI projects in businesses is pretty high. And it's going to be like that for a while. It's like a graph somewhere that shows the enthusiasm is sort of up here, but then it drops off because you realize it's not that straightforward to implement, or it can't do everything we thought it could do. And then companies and individuals sort of find cleverer ways to put it into process, and then we'll come to an equilibrium, I suspect, where we find out how useful it actually is and what it's good for. Again, I know in like medical research it's being used to great effect because it's just so good at handling these huge amounts of data. So I think it just depends. Benedicta asked, are there AI tools that make detection or not easy to tell? For instance, you use the AI tool for your assignment, but it doesn't want to be detected as though you are AI. So a quick word on this. There are some research that's come out of one of the universities, or a couple of universities in Australia, has indicated that AI detection tools are very prone to false positives and false negatives. They aren't particularly amazing at detecting AI. Zero GPT and all those I wouldn't even consider. They're just not that accurate at telling whether something is or isn't AI. So as a provider who is obliged to make sure that our students understand that they're actually meeting the outcomes that we're telling TEXA and ASCO that they're meeting, we have an obligation to check that learning. So that might be invigilated assessments. It might be your instructor or your lecturer talking to you afterwards and getting you to explain something. But if anyone tells you that they can 100% detect whether something is AI by using an AI detection tool, I would question that. The research doesn't support that very well. But again, research is continuously changing. Turnitin would disagree with me. Using AI to do a PhD proposal is not on. I would not want to accept a doctoral candidate who had used AI to do their whole proposal at all. Have we seen it? I won't say, but we can tell, and certainly in a doctoral degree or in a PhD, there is so much interrogation during that process. You know, you've got your supervisor and you've got the other academics, and you'll be questioned on things. And we have other checkpoints in our courses that allow us peace of mind to know that our students actually understand what we say they do and what they say they do. So yeah, AI for troubleshooting is really good. We just developed a course on predictive maintenance using AI. So it's really good for that kind of thing as well, like planning out when equipment's going to need checking and replacing and that kind of thing. Yeah, you can humanize work as well, right? But you know, what's it going to do? Put in some strange spaces and spelling errors and just do the work. Like if you just want a piece of paper, then you know what's going to happen when you actually get in the real world and someone asks you. I don't want to have a generation of graduates who don't understand what they're doing. I'm sure you guys don't want to be in the position that you've bluffed your way through your degrees or your advanced diplomas and haven't really got anything out of it except the qual. And yeah, Engar Isaac said that AI's yet to develop a perfect way of generating engineering drawings or designs. It's just, yeah, I was talking with our deputy dean about it yesterday. It's just not there yet. And I don't know if it will be. It's a complex thing to do. Yeah, great. Bit of a wrap up now. So thank you very much. I really appreciate the discourse and the discussion that you guys are having. I think it's such a new area for everyone that we really want student engagement here. We want to have discussions. We want to adapt and change as we go and, you know, do things that are in line with best practice. We're constantly seeing what other universities and vet providers are doing to make sure that we're staying in front of it. And we want to make sure we're doing what industry wants as well. So that's another place we're also trying to align with their needs, and so that when you guys graduate, when you complete your courses, or whether it's a prof cert all the way up to a 5 or 7 year study with us, we want to make sure it's relevant, right, to industry, and that you're not just learning things for the sake of it. So AI isn't a shortcut, it's a skill set. Use it to plan and clarify and practice and improve, not to replace you. There's definitely been people saying that, I've used AI to actually do all of my job to the point that I wonder why I'm employed. And these are very specific, often entry level kind of data entry basic professions, even customer service sometimes, although, whether that's effective or not. You don't want AI to replace you. I think it will be a long way from replacing engineers. It's too high risk, and the industries, some companies are really driving ahead with it, especially where it makes economic sense. Others are very cautious. So I don't think you guys are getting replaced anytime soon, but you do want to know how to use these tools. And like I said, get exposure. The more practice that you have with AI tools, the better prepared you're going to be in the workforce. You've got your tools like ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini for your planning, prompting, and revision, Notion AI and Canva for organizing flashcards, Quizlet and forms for testing yourself or your teams. And we're developing a prompt library. Prompting is very personal. Some people write really long 2-page prompts, and I've seen some that are quite good and useful, and some people just talk to it and see what they get out of that. They thought prompt engineering was going to be like a career. I don't think so, because you can ask AI to help you write prompts, and it will do a pretty good job. My next suggested step for you guys is to try and use Gen AI for sort of one task in the next couple of weeks, if you haven't already. If you're not already using it in different ways, which I think most of you probably are, get it to help you start off an assessment, to brainstorm, to plan your studies for the next year, or just plan. It doesn't even have to be studies, right? It can just be your goals in general. So, what's attainable, what's realistic, put in some details about, government data that's available to you guys, or engineering data, or jobs data. These are all things, you can feed these kind of reports in if they're publicly available, and it might help you pull out some insights and approach things in a way that you maybe haven't thought of. Great. Loretta asked, do I recommend using AI tools like Grok or DeepSeek? I personally probably wouldn't make a recommendation about what you guys do or do not use. Do your research and read your terms and conditions. If you don't want to read the full terms and conditions, get AI to summarize them for you. The key points, the areas that you should be concerned about, how it uses your data. I think I'm fairly model agnostic. I like to jump between lots of different models because I find that some are better than others for different things. Some are really good for sort of critiquing work. Some are good for creative thinking. Some are really good with sort of data and calculations. You've got to try it out and see what works for your needs, I think. Okay. There's some references all in IEEE format. That's another thing AI can do for you. I would probably use referencing, like even the Microsoft Word referencing is really good. But AI can do an okay job at writing references in IEEE format. I used it for this, and then I had to check them. And, it's sort of 50-50. But yeah, it's something you can do. If you want to read more of any of those, feel free. Our policy is there, and our academic honesty and misconduct policy is there too. They apply to all of our higher ed and vet courses and prof certs. And that's all from me. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nat. That was really amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our webinar. I do see that people are sending questions, so I'm just going to allow Nat to actually answer your questions, and then we will do the certificate of attendance. I will leave the QR as well as the link for you guys in order to request for your certificates. So Nat, you can go ahead and answer the questions that are in the chat box, and I will wait for you to finish so that I'm able to share the links, as well as mention that the participants will receive their certificates tomorrow.
Thank you, Sheppy. Okay, let's have a look at the chat. So how relevant is it that AI will create the next billionaires in the next few years to come, and can it also be used to earn? Yeah, a billionaire class is a whole end stage capitalism discussion that I probably don't have the scope or expertise to talk about here. It's very interesting how it's changing the economic layout of the world. Yeah, I probably can't speak to that. Can it be used to earn? Potentially. Some people are using AI to sort of churn out, Substacks and newsletters and content, even, and you probably have seen TikToks and things that are using AI generated images and video, and potentially there's always ways to make money off these things. Will it become oversaturated? Also, probably yes. But it doesn't hurt to practice with the tools. And if you think you can make money using them, then by all means. It's a growing area. So I think for the people that are, entrepreneurial and savvy enough, definitely, businesses want to use AI. They want to increase efficiency, improve processes, and stay at the cutting edge of their competitors. If you can find ways in industry and engineering to do that, then you guys are, I think, well placed to do so. Hopefully you'll be able to if it's something you're interested in. Just seeing if there's any other comments, questions. Great. Yeah, again, thank you so much everyone for your engagement. I really appreciate it. Happy to take any other questions that you think of after. When it comes to, if you're studying with us already and you want to talk about things for your assessments or your work, I would always recommend you contact your learning support officer, your instructor or your lecturer, and speak to them. Most of our assessments do not include the use of AI, but we're definitely starting to include AI usage in some of the assessments, especially into next year. We want to make sure you guys are prepared for the ways that they might be used in the real world, right? So in those cases, always contact the people that you know are going to be marking your work or checking your work, right? Marvin had some comments. Seems imperfection of sentence structure can save you from yeah. So there's some comments in the chat about AI detection tools. Like I said, I haven't seen a lot of evidence that they are foolproof. In fact, I've seen no evidence that they're foolproof, and I've tested them myself and found that they are not. Are they a good starting point for checking whether something is AI generated? Sure. Like anything, it is can be a good indicator that something is not quite right with a piece of work, right? And then that leads to further investigation. It's a tricky one. Marvin said, if AI technology is a norm, how can we claim for copyright of intellectual property of certain creative work online? That is a huge discussion, and the Copyright Agency of Australia is certainly thinking about it. So there's been discussions in the House of Lords in the UK, all over America, in China. There's lots and lots of, like I said, legislation, so legal discussion and academic discussion and industry discussion. So when you have music artists asking about whether their music can be used to create new music, definitely graphic design and drawing and art as well. It's an unresolved issue. I think there's one paper that called it a wicked problem, right? It doesn't have a clear cut, everyone agrees on this decision. Governments are also involved legislating around these things. What they decide is appropriate is not. There's also some stuff emerging from there. So I think it's worth staying aware of these things. Marvin said, is it ethical to claim revenue out of AI assisted work? I think, yeah, if you are disclaiming that it's AI, but ethics is, some people think AI is inherently unethical because of the way that it has taken people's content to train it. So you're always going to have that argument. Is it legal? At the moment, I would think yes, but you'd have to check. Depends where you are, depends what the laws are. Yeah. Great. This recording will be sent out after, as will the slides. If you have any other questions, let me know. And thank you so much for your time today, everyone.
Thank you so much, Nat. We really do appreciate it. I did see a lot of questions, and we literally crossed the 100 attendee mark today. So this is a good crowd with some really good questions. So, ladies and gentlemen, as mentioned, if you'd like to speak to a course advisor or you'd like to inquire regarding the courses that we have on offer at EIT, please feel free to reach out to us. I will leave all the relevant information in the chat box for you guys to request for a call, as well as speak to anyone who's able to assist you with either finances, learning support, or course advisory, or you would like to know a little bit more more about the programs that we offer at EIT. Please note that I am going to send both the recording as well as the slides to you. This will be sent possibly today or tomorrow. For the certificate of attendance, it is up on the screen, but I'm also going to leave the link for you guys. Just give me 2 minutes and then you'll have the link. Please make sure to request for your certificates as you'd like them to appear. So the name and surname should be as you'd like them to appear. Otherwise, because the process is automated, we won't be able to assist you should you input your information incorrectly. However, that is it for me. Yes, I did not forget. I am going to leave the link shortly in the chat box so that you guys are able to request for your certificate. I'm just asking for 2 minutes and I will be sure to send it to you. Thank you so much, Nat. And of course, most importantly, thank you to the people who attended today's webinar. We really are thankful. We have a couple more webinars